ladies and gentlemen. It is a very, very sad day today for us, first so after the announcement of the death of Lata ji. And of course, it is billions and billions of people worldwide are mourning, and everyone's paying their respects and tributes. And today, as in respect, we are showing some glimpses of the funeral and the last respects and the tributes as it happened. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming to pay his last respects. These are historic moments and moments that will always be remembered. And what I said, Dave, for everyone in the whole community at large, billions and billions of people, whichever country, wherever they are from, everyone's touched by Lataji's the death. At the age of 92, of course, she has had decades of singing career, and I can rightfully say there will be none other than like her. Just amazing that we were living in the same times as she did. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very, very sad day indeed in the history of the world, not only India. As we know, we will bring to you tributes and the full story of her life, of decades of singing and how she started singing. We know that she started singing at the very tender age of 5. It's when her father, Dinanath Mangeshkarji, started giving her lessons. And all 5 siblings have had a wonderful, very, very, in fact, a very sad day for all of us. I mean, the entire world. And there's billions of people, there are generations who grew up listening to her voice. Ever since we were born, we've always listened to her voice, she's just become that legend. It's hard to say anything, hard to even describe. What do we say? How do we even convey this news? This is just so sad. Well, moving on. The next news is the Queen celebrates her 70th year as the reign.
After 70 years on the throne, you might expect a major celebration for the Queen this weekend, but all of the pageantry is going to be held in June when it's not so cold here. And for the Queen, there's really not been a lot to celebrate in the past year. Her son, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, is still embroiled in controversy, accused of sexually assaulting Virginia Giuffre. He denies it, but there is the prospect of a damaging civil trial still to come. The Queen, who by some accounts was especially close to Andrew, has cut him loose to some extent, stripping him of his military titles and royal patronages.
And that is about the sort of first rule for the monarchy in general, for the Queen in particular, which is you are there to serve and you are there to make sure the monarchy survives. And that's why that ruthlessness kicked in so recently, because it was a question of survival.
In the past year, we also saw that interview the Duke and Duchess of Sussex gave Oprah, in which they spoke about racism within the royal family. And Harry said he felt like Princes William and Charles were trapped in the royal family. Shortly after, the Queen lost her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, a man she said was an enormous source of strength and counsel. And it's hard to forget that shot of her sitting there in the church all on her own. But she didn't withdraw from public life after that. In fact, she did have a very busy diary planned, but then she got sick. She had to scrap several major engagements due to back strains and some unspecified ailments. The Queen, who is 95 years old, referenced her own mortality recently, saying, "None of us will live forever." In countries like Australia, where there is significant Republican sentiment, but still a great deal of personal affection for the Queen, the future of a royal family is very much in doubt. But some royal watchers say the Queen has deliberately been making space and ensuring it's the younger royals who now get most of the attention.
She's maintained the monarchy through a period of unprecedented change, and she's also ensured a line of succession. And it's quite telling that, in recent photographs and portraits, we've seen the Queen with Prince Charles, Prince William and Prince George. There is the future, and I think of that she would be incredibly proud.
One of the few events marking the Platinum Jubilee this weekend is a good old-fashioned British bake-off, a pudding competition. Entries have just closed to find the best creation. It's going to be called Platinum Pudding, in the same way that coronation chicken became a thing in the 1950s. So people are sending in their photos and recipes for official judging. Whoever's selected will have their pudding recreated for generations to come and hopefully win the Royal Seal of Approval.
The Royal Seal of Approval, well, the Queen there in the 90s, and of course the Queen of millions of heart, Lata ji, sadly passed away. That news, which was our lead news for today, and of course we will be covering her life story in future segments as well. Well, right now let's take a look at what the Home Ministry is saying about international terrorism and what it might hold in the very coming future.
When's the international border going to open to tourists?
So that is a priority for us now, and I know that the Prime Minister and I know that I have been working over the last few weeks in particular to make sure that we are ready to open to international tourists as soon as it is safe to do so. So we have been speaking with health professionals. We are getting ready to open as soon as we can. So we're not at that point now. We actually went through a process. We're delivering exactly on the process that we said we would undertake. So we opened for families. We opened various pathways, including from Singapore, Japan, South Korea. We've opened to economic cohorts. We've opened to international students. The next phase is to open for tourists. We need to bring those back. So as soon as we can, we will be opening to international tourists.
Okay, but it sounds like you don't yet have the recommendation from the AHPPC on this?
We don't have all of the information that we need to be able to take the decision to open.
So they haven't recommended, the Chief Health Officers haven't yet. Okay, they haven't yet recommended it, but I think you're meeting tomorrow, are you?
Well, we're going through the process of preparing to open, and we will continue to talk to the health professionals. So as soon as they say yes, we will work with the states and territories, and we will reopen our international borders to tourists.
As part of that preparation, you know, one of the issues, and we certainly saw this with the Novak Djokovic situation, was the difficulty in assessing whether someone is vaccinated or has an exemption if they're not, and when, at what point you make that decision. How will this work when you've got thousands of tourists wanting to come in? Will they be assessed, and will a decision be made when they apply for a visa or when they land in Australia? Could some be turned away after landing in Australia?
It is possible that someone would be turned away when they attempted to enter Australia. The visa process is very different to the entry requirements that apply at the border. So many people would already have visas. Some have had those for many months, if not going into well over a year. When people come to Australia, they have to have a valid visa, but they also need to meet the entry requirements to come into the country. Now, at this point in time, to be able to enter Australia, if you are a non-Australian, you need to have a valid visa, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you are fully vaccinated, or you have acceptable medical evidence to say that you cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons. And if you speak specifically about Mr. Djokovic, the issue was he couldn't prove that he had a medical reason for not being vaccinated.
And once you do open the border, will it stay open? Can you give the sector, the tourism sector, that certainty?
We will be doing everything to keep it open. So as we open to the international... Look, we need to understand that we have gone through 2 years of uncertainty. I was very keen to reopen our borders to the economic cohorts and also to international students on the 1st of December. But then we were hit with Omicron, which meant we had to pause for 14 days. So I'm not going to sit here and say absolutely guaranteed, because we don't know what might be coming our way. No government does. No country does. We are prepared to deal with what comes our way, and hopefully once the borders are open, they remain open.
And of course, there is no certainty, because who knows what might happen, as you mentioned there. Well, right now we'll go to Western Australia, where 5 properties have been lost in those places.
3 out-of-control bushfires are continuing to burn in Western Australia, threatening lives and homes. 2 of the blazes are in the south of the state, near the towns of Denmark and Bridgetown. A third fire near Bruce Rock in the eastern wheat belt has expanded, with the town site of Corrigan now under threat. 4 homes in the Denmark region have been lost and another has been damaged, while 4 other structures have also been razed. There's also damage to a number of buildings and 1 house in Hester due to the fire in Bridgetown.
Importantly, over the last 24 hours, thoughts are turning towards recovery for those communities that have been affected by these fires. We're working closely with the local government to assess these property losses and, importantly, any impacts on business continuity in those 2 communities.
A man is in a serious condition in hospital after sustaining injuries while fighting the bushfire on his rural property. While authorities say residents must remain vigilant, they expect to make significant progress in controlling the blazes over the next few days.
We're into a more milder weather pattern now, and so we're expecting over the next couple of days to really make some ground on the Denmark fire and contain that rather significant edge.
And of course, containment would be the key at this point in time, trying to keep it to where it is at the moment. Well, right now, let's go to New South Wales, where the New South Wales authorities urge people to get booster shots as cases slow.
And we look at a variety of different sources of information that gives us a sense that we are slowing the spread and we are seeing a decline in transmission in the community. Now, the reasons for that are the booster is contributing to that, as well as the fact that members of the community have been infected with COVID, as well as all of those actions that you as individuals are taking, complying with those mask wearing, getting tested, isolating. These are essential complements to the booster rollout in keeping the case numbers low, and can I thank the community for their efforts.
Life in a pandemic can be pretty tenuous, and what we do know though is that boosters can make a huge difference to actually the risks that come during the pandemic.
And of course those risks are always there, and the boosters will help. Of course, we know that there is lots of debate going on about that as well, about the first shot, the second shot, and now the boosters, and whether it, actually just reduces the symptoms or what does it actually do. There's all kinds of talks that go on in the community. So, but it is better be safe. So get your boosters done. Well, right now let's go to Tasmania, where the business grants for COVID-affected businesses have been doubled.
The money stopped pouring into Matt Goss's Launceston businesses when the borders reopened in December.
We noticed instantly, within the 24 hours the phone didn't stop ringing, and unfortunately it wasn't for the good side of things where people normally ring up to make their reservations. It was just people cancelling bookings.
His 2 hospitality businesses quickly lost hundreds of bookings, and he had to reduce opening hours to stay afloat. Mr Goss applied for a government grant designed to help COVID-hit businesses.
It's almost like a drop in the ocean compared to what we've lost, but look, it's money that is going to help, put one more person back on, or, hopefully just make things a little bit easier going through these months until we get the confidence back around the community.
The government's now extended the assistance scheme.
Round 2 is doubling the maximum amount available to $10,000, with the minimum still being $1,000.
Business at Gary Baker's Hobart restaurant has been steady, but has been helped further by a recent influx of tourists.
We've got people waiting for tables the last 2 weeks, whereas before we were just basically semi-full most of the time. Now we've got people waiting for tables, so you can really feel the impact of interstate people coming to Hobart.
To be eligible, businesses need to have had at least a 30% drop in turnover between January the 15th and February 14. But the Small Business Council says that threshold needs to be reduced to allow more businesses to take advantage of the funding.
Businesses 20% down on last year would be doing pretty tough, and they're the ones who could probably do with a little fillip to tide them through over this autumn period.
Tasmania has recorded another drop in COVID case numbers, with just 483 in the last reporting period. 10 people are in hospital, with 5 being treated specifically for COVID. 2 patients are receiving intensive care. Adam Langenberg, ABC News.
And of course, it is bringing that threshold down from 30 to 20% would be quite good, because then it will be a wider spread and more people will be able to take up advantage of that stimulus package. Well, right now, let's go to the bit of politics. So, Prime Minister Scott Morrison says he's forgiven a Deputy Prime Minister for calling him a hypocrite.
Delivering Sunday morning absolution.
Human frailty, it's real. We all share it.
The Prime Minister forgives his deputy for his sins.
People get angry, people get bitter. So who am I to be judging someone else?
And attempts to turn the other cheek in the face of another insider attack.
What people send around in texts, I frankly could not care less about.
In a leaked text message from March last year, Barnaby Joyce called Scott Morrison a hypocrite and a liar. Words he now says he regrets.
I'd like to start where I finished and unreservedly apologise to the Prime Minister.
A backbencher at the time.
And when he was in a pretty dark place, blaming a lot of people.
Mr Joyce claims he didn't know the real Scott Morrison until he became the Deputy Prime Minister.
His observations of me in that relationship has completely transformed his view that he had as a backbencher at a time when his head was in a very different place.
But the year-old character assessment is a gift to the opposition.
Seems like the people who know Scott Morrison the best trust him the least.
And with mere months until the federal election, Liberals are questioning whether the Prime Minister can turn that perception around.
Is Scott Morrison the asset that he was 3 years ago for you in a campaign?
The circumstances are very different now. He's a great campaigner. He has been very focused on the job of getting us through the pandemic.
Is that what you're saying? It's different now.
I'd like to... we need to get him out talking to people.
Desperate to shift the focus, the Home Affairs Minister announced the imminent reopening of Australia's borders. The details, though, to be determined.
We're going through the process of preparing to open.
What's most damaging about this latest leak is that the damning critique of Scott Morrison's character has once again come from his own side. With the Prime Minister down, the Liberals' first attack ad suggests their strategy is to try and bring the Labor leader down with him.
What do we actually know about Anthony Albanese?
An attempt to define him before voters do. Jane Norman, ABC News.
So, let the election campaign begin. So, Michael McCormack won't rule out of running for leader of Nationals, Barnaby Joyce.
It's very, very unfortunate the fact that we're talking about ourselves when we should be talking about Australians. We should be focused on the recovery from COVID. We should be focused on all of those things that mean so much to ordinary, everyday Australians who are doing it tough. So for those Australians out there in the suburbs, out there in the regions who are currently getting kids ready for school, about to open a business, about to go to work for the day, about to drive a tractor, a truck, whatever the case might be, I want them to know that I'm focused on them, and so should every politician in Canberra.
He said at his weekend press conference that those texts were based on commentary at the time. He now trusts the Prime Minister, even though in those texts he referred to him coming to the view that Scott Morrison was a liar based on observations over a long period of time. Do you believe him?
Well, that's a matter for Barnaby. He said that. I appreciate it's 12 months ago since he sent those texts. A lot has happened in those intervening 12 months. A lot has happened. But, he needs to now make sure that he addresses our party room today. He's got some explaining to do. I appreciate many of our members are disgruntled about the focus on personalities, not on the people we serve. And I think we need to get back to earning that trust of those people we do serve.
How can he possibly, in your view, continue a proper working relationship with the Prime Minister after he described him in such disparaging terms?
Well, he's apologised and the Prime Minister's accepted that. They need to be able to, and they will, I'm sure, they're both professional politicians, work together for the good of Australians.
What did you make of Barnaby Joyce? No, he certainly apologised, but he also offered...
So he has apologized, and as he mentioned that, they are policed politicians and they will work together, leaving differences aside as those kind of things happen. But ladies and gentlemen, right now, once again, I need to say goodbye from this segment. And don't forget that the latest edition of Brisbane Indian Times will be out this weekend. And, it's all being put together as we speak. And it is wonderful that, we can get this out right on this time. But the very, very sad news of Lata ji passing away, just can't get over that. It just, dominates the thought. We will bring some tributes. We will bring some special programs on the ones. Of course, we have to be very, very, very mindful of the copyright things as well. And that, we have to give credit to the sources of where we pick up the streams from. Well, right now, it's time to say goodbye until tomorrow when we'll have the 2 segments, but today just the 1 segment. Wonderful to have your company on the 7th day of February 2020. And it's about 25 degrees, sunny out there in Brisbane, looking very, very good. I'm glad you could join us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all tomorrow.